Thank you for watching this video. My only request is that after you've watched it, that you will consider sharing it with your family, your friends, and those that are connected to you. Because I believe that what I'm about to say is very important. And trust me, I put a lot of thought, spent a lot of time in prayer, and I'm ready now to speak about what I want to speak about and encourage you to do something that I think is very important if you haven't done it yet. As the Delta variant spreads, some people who have already been vaccinated are testing positive for COVID-19. Now, health experts say that these particular breakthrough cases, they're going to continue to rise because of this Delta variant. But they also say that many of those, the vast majority of those individuals who have been vaccinated are showing protection against serious illness as it relates to COVID-19. That being said, I want to encourage you on this particular day to please get vaccinated against the COVID virus. If you have not been vaccinated, I, Pastor Troy Wynn, Senior Pastor of the Freedom Church in Warner Robins, Georgia, am encouraging you, advising you, pleading with you to get vaccinated. Number two, I want to encourage you to please wear a mask in public places if you are not vaccinated and you're just not going to get vaccinated no matter what. I want to encourage you to please wear a mask in public places. This is for your protection. We have lost far too many people already, and you need to be someone who protects themselves. Now, I know that people have different issues as it relates to the COVID vaccination, which I am going to address in a few minutes. But if you're not going to be vaccinated, and listen, that's your choice. In the words of Bobby Brown, that's your prerogative. At the same time, though, I want to strongly encourage you to consider those around you. Number three, you who have been vaccinated may also want to consider wearing a mask in public places. Why? To protect yourself against or from those who are not vaccinated and they're not going to wear a mask. We are living in some interesting times where there is great uncertainty. Oftentimes there is much lack of clarity as it relates to the COVID-19 virus. And no matter what you believe, I believe that this is something that we have to take serious. I will tell you that I was among those first group of individuals who were not going to take the vaccination. I had made up in my mind that I'll be fine. Trust God, I'm gonna pray, because there were so many unknowns, so many uncertainties, so much confusion with the data that initially I put it off. I wanted to delay it, wanted to see what was going to happen. But after much prayer, consideration, observation, I decided to get the COVID-19 vaccination. This was several months ago. Got my first shot. No problems. Went back to get my second shot, and I will tell you that that second shot was different from the first shot. I felt a little sick. I felt a little under the weather, something in between having a cold and a flu. And for probably 48 hours, I was miserable. Now, I wasn't deathly ill, but I did not feel my best. But at this point in time in history, I am glad that I went and got the vaccination. The reason why I shared my experience with you with the second shot is because I want to be totally transparent. I want to be totally transparent because I really did not want to be in this position encouraging people to take the vaccination, because I wanted to let individuals decide on their own. As a matter of fact, when I told my church I was going to get the vaccination, I initially told them that I would not give them any details or any information about it, that I would let them choose for themselves. But as I have watched the progression of this particular virus, now this Delta variant coming on the scene, I just think it's prudent and wise that we take the vaccination if it is available for us to receive it. Now, here's the last thing I want to say, and it's point number 4. I want to encourage you, and this is mainly for those of you of the African American community. I want to strongly encourage you not to use the Tuskegee experiment as a reason not to get vaccinated. This is perhaps the number one reason why people are not getting vaccinated that I'm hearing within the African American community, they generally will cite the Tuskegee experiment. And I want to inform you and educate you so that if you are not going to get vaccinated, you don't use the Tuskegee experiment as a reason. Reason being because it's not a legitimate reason. One of the things that is really tragic in America is that there is so much misinformation, especially as it relates to historical events. And what you may or may not know is that the Tuskegee experiment, which began in 1932, at the time, there was no known treatment for syphilis. And syphilis was a contagious venereal disease. Well, after being recruited by the promise of free medical care, 600 African American men in Macon County, Alabama, were enrolled in this particular project that we now call the Tuskegee experiment. And here's what you need to know. The project secretly aimed to study the full progression of the disease syphilis. Now, you can verify everything that I am saying by simply going to history.com. The participants of this particular experiment were primarily sharecroppers, and many had never ever visited a doctor before. You got to keep in mind now, this is 1932. So doctors from the United States Public Health Service, which was running the study, informed the participants that they were actually being treated for bad blood. At that time, that was a term commonly used in the area for a variety of ailments. So individuals came believing they were being tested for bad blood, being treated for bad blood. But the truth of the matter was, they were not being treated for bad blood. They were a part of an experiment that they had no idea they were a part of it. Of the 600 participants of this particular experiment, 399 men had latent syphilis. And as a control group, there were 201 other people who were absolutely free from the disease. Now, you and I, down through history, have heard or been told that during the Tuskegee experiment, they gave people syphilis. That is incorrect. Again, you can Google this, fact check this on history.com, and you will see that what I am telling you is actually the truth. These individuals had syphilis, okay? 399 men had syphilis, and the truth of the matter was the vaccination was withheld from them. At the time, penicillin was the cure, the vaccination. Now, government medical researchers intentionally withheld this penicillin vaccine from 399 African Americans. And as a result, those African Americans who had syphilis prior to, they did not receive it from the government, they simply were not given the cure, even though the government had the cure, because again, they wanted to see the effects of full-blown syphilis. And these individuals suffered severe health problems. Some people suffered blindness, other people suffered mental illness, and then some people died. Now, that's the tragedy of the Tuskegee experiment. I want you to juxtapose it against what we're dealing with today. In the Tuskegee experiment, the vaccination was withheld, not offered, not given to those who were clearly identified as having need of it. Here we are, though, in 2021, COVID-19, the variant now that is upon us. They're not trying to withhold the cure from us. They're trying to give us the cure. And whether or not you believe it or trust it, I'm simply giving you the facts as I know them to be. I say this because I know many of you trust me. Many of you know that I am someone who studies to the nth degree before I speak on something. And trust me, I have pontificated and prayed and pondered this particular moment in time where I record and release this video because I wanted to make sure that everything that I said was accurate and spot on. I understand the distrust of the government. I understand that it's trust of the CDC and health organizations. Trust me, I totally understand it. At the same time, I want to be someone who says to you, I've taken the vaccination. I believe in the vaccination, and I strongly encourage those of you who have yet to be vaccinated to get vaccinated. Now, I will tell you this, I am not a fan of the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. Okay, because when I was thinking about getting vaccinated, that was the vaccination that I was going to get. And then there was some news about some side effects. And man, that just totally threw me away from getting any vaccination. And I tell you, I put it off because I was like, man, I was going to get the Johnson & Johnson because the Johnson & Johnson was a one-shot vaccination. When that news came down the pipeline of some of the effects that some people were experiencing, I was like, you know what? I'm good. No vaccination for me. But after thinking and watching and observing, I decided, you know what? I need to get the vaccination that is available, just not the Johnson & Johnson. And I got one of the ones that were available that required you to have 2 shots, as I told you earlier in this video. And I am glad that I did. I want to encourage you again, if you are the African American community and you have not gotten vaccinated and you are using the Tuskegee experiment as a legitimate reason in your mind not to get vaccinated, I hope this information will help you make a more intelligent decision toward your own health, safety, and welfare. Again, at the end of the day, you're going to still have to trust God with the vaccination. But I stand before you as someone who has been vaccinated, and I have not had any issues, any health concerns. Just the issue that I told you about after that second shot, where my arm was a little sore for 2 days and I did not feel my best, had like flu-like feelings, but I was still able to function. And after about 2 days, I was back to my old normal self. And that's why I'm sitting here today encouraging you to consider getting vaccinated if you have not gotten vaccinated. We are living in interesting times. Data is all over the place. Sometimes we're looking for reliable sources. And I hope that for those of you that may be sitting on the fence, considering whether or not now would be a good time to take the vaccination, I lend my voice to the subject to encourage you to do so, because I want to see you alive. I want to see you survive. I want your families to have access to you for as long as possible. And if this can protect you or give you even more protection than you have without it, then I strongly advise it. Yes, some people are still getting the COVID variant with the vaccination, which researchers say that those of us who are vaccinated are probably going to have to get a booster shot. I want to go on camera and go on record and tell you that if that is the case and they create a booster shot, I will be the first in line. I will not procrastinate. I will not wait. I will be the first in line to get the booster shot. Why? Because I believe that it gives us a better layer of protection than walking, breathing in this world without it, because this is not something that we can play with. This is not something that we can joke about. This is not something that we can just brush off and say, well, you know, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to trust the Lord. We still pray. We still trust God. But I need you to understand this, especially those of you that are believers like I am. The Bible says that medicine comes from God and good things come from God. So we don't want to make medicine the enemy. We don't want to make the vaccination the enemy. We want to be wise as we proceed, because we've already seen what this virus can do. And we don't want it to do any more damage, take any more lives unnecessarily. This is Pastor Troy Wynn Sr. Thank you for your time. And as I stated before I started, or right at the start of this video, I ask that you would share this with your family and your friends, especially those that may not have been vaccinated, so that they might consider being vaccinated and protecting themselves with whatever is available for us to protect ourselves, because I believe that it is the most prudent, wise thing for us to do. God bless you.